Welcome to Dispatch, the weekly show designed to keep you on track as you build and operate your layout. I'm Roy Smith, your dispatcher. Thank you for joining me tonight. On tonight's show, your layout photos, the question of the week, your comments, and a big shout out. The studio audience has already gathered and is waiting for the show to begin. Let's get started before they get too rowdy. First up, your layout photos. Each week I invite you to post photos of your layout on a Facebook page called the N-Scale Union Pacific Evanston Subdivision Group. And each week many of you do just that. Then I bring your photos over here to Dispatch to share with everyone during the show. So once again, I have a bunch of layout photos to share with you, and here they are. Now, when the show ends, I want you to go over to the Facebook group, join the group, and post a photo of your layout there because we want to see what you're doing on your layout. I will put a link down below that will take you to the group. When you see this photo of Echo Canyon on my layout, you'll know you're at the right place. Next up on the show, the question of the week. This week's question was suggested by Trevor Hawkins. Here's Trevor's question. Which railroad do you model? For example, the Union Pacific, the BNSF, the Norfolk Southern, some other railroad, or some combination of railroads? And why did you pick that particular railroad to model? Well, a bunch of you responded to Trevor's question, but I could not compile your responses into a chart the way I usually do because you all have chosen to model a great variety of different railroads. I couldn't discern a pattern of favorites. You all have modeled just about every railroad that exists or has ever existed. So instead of a fancy chart, let me just offer some generalizations about selecting a railroad to model. After all, selecting a railroad to model is one of the important decisions we usually make early on when planning to build a layout. Here are 5 things that might affect our choice. First, we want to model a particular region or location. We often choose to model the region we grew up in or are familiar with. For example, the layout that I built in the 1980s was set in central Pennsylvania because that's where I grew up, although I was living in Virginia in the 1980s. That layout featured lots of rolling hills and lots of trees, just like central Pennsylvania does. And what railroad did I choose to model? If you guessed Conrail, you would be right. Conrail still existed back then in the 1980s, and it ran everywhere in Pennsylvania. By contrast, my current layout is set in Wyoming and Utah. Why? Because I'm fascinated by the deserts and semi-arid regions of the American West and Southwest. And the railroad I chose to model? Well, it's the Union Pacific because the UP runs through the region I am modeling. Second, the era that you want to model may also affect the railroad that you select. You could choose to model the steam era, the transition era, or the modern era. If you choose the modern era, you might go with the BNSF, Union Pacific, Norfolk Southern, CSX, Kansas City Southern, or Canadian National, for example. And there are tons of popular railroads that no longer exist. For example, these include the Pennsylvania Railroad, the Santa Fe, the Southern Pacific, Conrail, the Chessie System, and many others. You might select one of these. Or you might choose to model an era just when a merger is taking place. This would allow you to run locomotives of 2 or more railroads because they haven't been repainted yet. That way you could, for example, run Southern Pacific diesels in consist with Union Pacific diesels. 3, the type of railroad you want to model could determine which railroad you choose. For example, you might want to model a heavily trafficked main line, a short line, or a local switching branch. I could choose to model the North Shore Railroad, a short line which serves industries in central Pennsylvania and which has interchanges with the Norfolk Southern. A layout with interchanges would allow me to operate locomotives from 2 or more railroads on it. And I can run foreign power on my layout. In fact, that's why I have 2 BNSF diesels on my UP layout. You see foreign power running just about everywhere nowadays. I was amazed the first time I saw Union Pacific diesels running on Norfolk Southern tracks in Pennsylvania. 4, available paint schemes might influence which railroad you choose to model. You can easily check to see if locomotives and rolling stock for the railroad you'd like to model are available in model train stores and online. You can always repaint your locomotives in a paint scheme that isn't commercially available, or you can repaint them in the scheme of a purely fictional railroad that you made up. And 5, the last but perhaps most important consideration in selecting a railroad to model is this. You can pick whatever you like. It's your railroad and you can run whatever you want to on it. That's one of the advantages of building a freelance layout. It allows you to do whatever you want. And now, the question for the coming week. The question for the coming week relates to this week's question. It was suggested by SP and 53 Daylight and Overnight. Here's his question. Which came first for you? The location you wanted to model or the railroad you wanted to model? To rephrase the question, did you pick a location and then get locomotives and rolling stock to match that location? Or did you pick the trains first and then find an area to run them in? For example, I stumbled upon some photos of Echo Canyon, Utah back in 2014, decided I wanted to model that area, and then chose to model the Union Pacific Railroad, which is the railroad running through that area. Be sure to post your response to this question in the comments section down below. Then I will tally up your responses and present the results in next week's edition of Dispatch. Remember, the question for the coming week is, which came first for you, the location to model or the railroad to model? And now it's time for your comments. On Saturday, I uploaded a video called the West Milton Model Railroad Club. In it, I took you on a visit to the Reading and Susquehanna Valley Model Railroad Club, located in West Milton, Pennsylvania. The club's layout occupies a space measuring 16 feet by 30 feet. The members of the club have been working on their layout for about 10 years now. Let's take a look at a clip from Saturday's video. Today we are going to visit the Reading and Susquehanna Valley Model Railroad Club, located in West Milton, Pennsylvania. That's starting right now. Hi, I'm Roy Smith. For the past several weeks, I've been showing you the railroad and model railroad things I did during my recent trip to Pennsylvania. I visited a number of home and club layouts during that trip. Today, I want to take you to the HO Scale Reading and Susquehanna Valley Model Railroad Club, which is located in West Milton, Pennsylvania. Let's take a look at the club's layout. The club's layout occupies a space measuring 16 feet by 30 feet. The members of the club have been working on their layout for about 10 years now. Currently, there are nearly 30 members in the club. There were tons of comments in response to this video. Let me just share a couple of them with you. Gary Wies wrote, "Great video, Roy. Very nice layout. When will you be doing your videos for your layout?" Gary, I have one more activity during my trip to share with you this coming Saturday, and that was my visit to Strasburg, Pennsylvania. After that, it's back to layout updates on Saturday mornings. I guess I'd better get busy and do something on my layout though, or those Saturday morning videos will be real short. Craig Lord wrote, "The great thing about model railroading is we make friends all over the country and all over the world. What a hobby." You are so right, Craig. I think the best thing about model railroading is sharing the hobby with friends. It was tons of fun to visit both home and club layouts and to hang out with friends in the hobby during the trip. And Gary Leach, who is president of the West Milton Model Railroad Club, wrote, "Hi Roy, thank you for putting the club layout on. Just remember you are a regular member as far as we are concerned. I will be glad to show the layout to anyone who wants to visit. Can't wait to see you and Leonor next year." Well, thanks, Gary. I'm delighted to be a member of the club. Say hi to everyone in the club for me. I look forward to hanging out with you again next year. Now, I want to update you on the video, a second visit to Todd Treaster's awesome N-scale layout, which I uploaded on July 13th. It's only been 10 days since I uploaded that video, and it already has more than 31,000 views. I'll put the link to that video down below in case you haven't seen it yet. I want you to go watch it because Todd Treaster's layout really is the most awesome N-scale layout I have ever seen. I also want you to share it on your social media so that everyone has a chance to see it. Let's make it go viral. Let's make it blow up the internet. And now it's time for tonight's big shout out. Our shout out tonight goes to Corey and his N-scale Mojave Subdivision layout. Corey's layout includes the town of Mojave and parts of the Cajon Pass. Along the way, he is sharing layout updates with us, how-tos, and rail fanning videos of the real thing. In particular, Corey is showing us his realistic techniques for creating desert scenery. All right, let's go take a look at Corey's layout.
Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Corey, and this is my Cajon Pass module on my N-scale Mojave Subdivision. And I want to welcome you to part 2 on how I do my desert scenery. Alright, so before we get started, I wanted to show you the materials we'll be working with. To start off, I got some Woodland Scenics bushes, olive green, light green, some Scenery Express moss green, Scenery Express sage, dark brown, fine light green, burnt orange, and I have plenty of Woodland Scenics burnt grass, horse turf, fine turf, light green coarse, all kinds of stuff. I picked up some JTT Scenery Products trees, and I have some Woodland Scenics fine leaf foliage, dark green and light green. Also picked up some deer I'd like to put down by the creek. So we'll get around to doing that. And also have lots of tufts from Scenery Express. But this is the main materials we're working with. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so starting off with some Woodland Scenics Earth Fine Turf. Go ahead and put a couple pinches in my sifter here. And I'll start going around and using light taps. Add the first layer of material. Yeah, this is a good foundation. This is a good starting point. I'm pretty happy with this and showing it to you guys. But yeah, that's gonna wrap up the how I do my desert scenery part 2. I do hope you guys enjoyed it, and there's gonna be plenty of layout updates coming up soon.
Now you've had a chance to catch a glimpse of Corey's layout right here on Dispatch. So here's what I want you to do next. I want you to go over to his channel and check it out for yourself. I will put a link down below that will take you there. While you're there, be sure to subscribe to Corey's channel and tell him that Roy Smith sent you. Well, that just about concludes tonight's show, but before you go, remember, I normally upload 2 videos each week. Dispatch on Tuesday nights, in which I get to interact with you and which you are watching right now, and layout updates on Saturday mornings, in which I show you what I'm doing on my layout. I have one more thing that I did during my trip to Pennsylvania to show you before getting back to the layout updates, and that was my weekend in Strasburg, Pennsylvania. I want you to be sure to watch this episode about Strasburg next Saturday, and here's why. You will recall that we had a big get-together at Steamtown in Scranton, Pennsylvania in May. Well, our next big get-together in May 2020 probably will be held in Strasburg. Saturday's episode will give you an idea of what Strasburg is like. I hope you will come to the Strasburg get-together next year. I'd love to hang out with you there. Something else before you go. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because I don't want you to miss any of the upcoming episodes. And one last thing. Right now there are 169 other videos on this channel. Go to my videos page and check them out. I will put a link to the videos page down below. Well, everybody, that's it. The show's over. You can go home now.
Hey, what about the $20 you promised to pay us for showing up here tonight?
I wonder if I should revoke that guy's lifetime pass to my train room. Well, thanks again for joining me here on Dispatch tonight. Until next time, happy railroading. I'm Roy Smith, and I will see you again very soon.